Marcus Williams heard the doorbell ring at exactly 11:47 p.m. He paused the cartoon his 6-year-old daughter Emma was watching and glanced toward the front door of their small apartment. Living in downtown Chicago meant strange deliveries weren't unusual, but this late at night felt different. Emma had fallen asleep on the couch beside him, her tiny hand still clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. The bell rang again, followed by urgent knocking. Marcus carefully moved Emma's head to a pillow and walked to the door, checking the peephole. A delivery driver in a dark uniform stood outside, holding a large brown package and looking around nervously. The man kept checking his phone and glancing down the hallway as if expecting someone. "Delivery for apartment 4B, the driver called out when Marcus opened the door slightly, keeping the security chain attached. Marcus lived in 4A, but mistakes happened all the time in their building. The numbers were faded and hard to read in. The dim hallway lighting. "I think you want 4B, that's next door," Marcus said. But the driver shook his head impatiently. "No, sir. This is definitely for you. Marcus Williams, right? Just need you to sign here." The driver thrust an electronic pad toward him through the gap in the door. Something felt wrong. Marcus hadn't ordered anything recently. Money was tight since his wife Sarah died in a car accident 8 months ago, and he'd been careful about every purchase. He worked double shifts at the warehouse just to keep up with rent and Emma's daycare costs. Online shopping was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. "I didn't order anything," Marcus said, but the driver insisted. "Look, man, I just deliver what they give me. The address matches, the name matches. Maybe it's a gift from someone? Just sign so I can finish my route." The driver seemed anxious to leave, constantly looking over his shoulder. Marcus noticed sweat on the man's forehead, despite the cool October night. Against his better judgment, Marcus unhooked the chain and accepted the package. It was heavier than expected, about the size of a shoebox but much denser. After signing the electronic pad, Marcus watched the driver hurry down the hall without another word. He didn't even wait for the elevator, heading straight for the stairwell. The whole interaction lasted less than 2 minutes, but something about it made Marcus uneasy. Back inside, Marcus examined the package under the living room lamp. The shipping label was definitely addressed to him at the correct address, but he didn't recognize the return address. It came from something called Meridian Logistics in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The package felt solid, like it contained metal, objects, and there was no rattling when he shook it gently. Emma stirred on the couch, mumbling in her sleep about wanting pancakes for breakfast. Marcus smiled at his daughter, remembering how Sarah used to make special Saturday morning pancakes, shaped like animals. Those happy memories felt like a lifetime ago now. He decided to open the package in the morning when he was more alert. Placing it on the kitchen counter, Marcus carried Emma to her bedroom and tucked her into bed. She woke up briefly, asking for water and a bedtime story, but fell back asleep before he finished the first page of her favorite book about a brave little mouse. The next morning, Marcus woke to Emma jumping on his bed at 7 o'clock sharp, her usual weekend routine. After making breakfast and getting her settled with coloring books, he returned to the mysterious package. Using a kitchen knife, he carefully cut through the heavy tape. Inside, wrapped in thick bubble wrap, were 3 small electronic devices he didn't recognize. They looked like modified cell phones, but with additional buttons and small antennas. Beneath them was an envelope containing a USB drive and a handwritten note that made his blood run cold. The note read, "Payment as agreed. Devices are programmed and ready. Use the drive to access the files. Remember, silence is golden. Payment due by midnight tomorrow or consequences follow." Marcus stared at the note, reading it 3 times before the words fully registered. This package wasn't meant for him at all. Someone had made a serious mistake, and now he was holding what appeared to be some kind of illegal equipment. His hands began shaking as he realized the implications. Emma called from the living room, asking him to help with her coloring book, her innocent voice a stark contrast to the dangerous situation unfolding in his kitchen. Marcus quickly rewrapped the devices and shoved everything back into the box. He needed to figure out how to return this package without getting involved in whatever illegal activity it represented. But as he helped Emma color a picture of a butterfly, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that it might already be too late. Someone out there was expecting these devices, and when they didn't receive them, they would come looking. The driver had his real name and address, which meant whoever sent the package knew exactly where to find him. The morning sun streamed through their small apartment windows, but Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. His quiet life as a single father had just become infinitely more complicated, and he had no idea how dangerous the next few hours would become. By Monday morning, Marcus had convinced himself that returning the package would solve everything. He called the shipping company first thing after dropping Emma at daycare, explaining that he'd received a package meant for someone else. The cow. Customer service representative seemed confused when Marcus described the Meridian Logistics return address. "Sir, we don't show any company by that name in our system," the woman said after several minutes of searching. "And the tracking number you gave me doesn't exist in our database." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "That's impossible. Your driver delivered it Saturday night. I have the signed receipt on my phone." "I'm sorry, but we don't make deliveries that late on weekends. Our last Saturday delivery is at 6 p.m. Are you sure it was one of our drivers?" After hanging up, Marcus realized the situation was worse than he thought. Whoever delivered the package had used fake credentials and a stolen uniform. This wasn't a simple shipping mistake. It was something much more serious. At work that day, Marcus couldn't concentrate on his warehouse duties. He kept thinking about the electronic devices hidden in his kitchen cabinet. During his lunch break, he researched Meridian Logistics online but found nothing. The company didn't exist, which meant someone had created fake shipping labels to cover their tracks. His supervisor, Tony Martinez, noticed Marcus seemed distracted during the afternoon shift. Tony had been like a father figure since Sarah died, often checking on Marcus and Emma. "You okay, kid? You seem jumpy today," Tony said during a break between loading trucks. Marcus wanted to tell him everything but knew it would put Tony in danger too. "Just tired. Emma had nightmares last night." Tony nodded understandingly. "Single parenting is tough. If you need time off, just let me know." After work, Marcus picked up Emma from daycare and tried to act normal during dinner. She chattered about her day, showing him drawings she'd made of their family, just the two of them now standing in front of their apartment building. The simple drawing made Marcus's heart ache, reminding him how much they both still missed Sarah. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Marcus decided to examine the USB drive from the package. Using his old laptop, he plugged it in and found dozens of encrypted files. Most were password protected, but one folder opened easily. Inside were photographs that made Marcus wish he'd never touched the package. The photos showed various people in what appeared to be illegal activities: drug deals, money exchanges, and meetings in dark locations. Some faces were circled in red with handwritten notes about contracts and deadlines. Marcus realized he was looking at evidence of organized crime, possibly including murder contracts. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have something that belongs to us. We know where you live and where your daughter goes to school." Marcus's hands shook as he read the message. They weren't just asking for the package back, they were threatening Emma. He immediately went to check on his daughter, finding her sleeping peacefully in her small bed, unaware of the danger surrounding them. Another text arrived. "Bring the package to Millennium Park tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come alone or face consequences." Marcus paced his small living room, trying to figure out his options. He could go to the police, but what if these criminals had connections inside law enforcement? The photos on the USB drive suggested an organized operation with significant resources. If they knew where Emma went to school, they probably knew much more about his daily routine. He considered running. But where could a single father go with a 6-year-old child? He had less than $800 in his savings account and no family outside Chicago. Sarah's parents had died before Emma was born, and Marcus's own parents had disowned him years ago when he dropped out of college to marry Sarah. The third text was even more chilling. "Your daughter is beautiful. It would be a shame if something happened to her." Marcus felt rage building in his chest. These criminals were threatening an innocent child over their own mistake. He looked at the mysterious package sitting on his kitchen counter and realized that returning it wouldn't guarantee their safety. He'd seen their faces in the photos, which made him a liability whether he cooperated or not. That night, Marcus barely slept. Every sound in the building made him jump. Footsteps in the hallway, doors closing, the elevator arriving at their floor. He checked the locks 3 times and moved a chair against the front door. At 2 a.m., he heard someone testing the handle of his door. But when he looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty. By morning, Marcus had made a difficult decision. He couldn't trust these criminals to leave them alone after getting their package back. Instead, he needed to find a way to use the evidence against them while protecting Emma. But first, he had to get his daughter somewhere safe. Before leaving for work, Marcus called Emma's daycare and told them his daughter was sick and wouldn't be coming in. Then he called his supervisor, Tony, and asked for an emergency day off. For the first time in months, Marcus was grateful that Tony understood the challenges of single parenthood. "Take all the time you need," Tony said without questions. Marcus spent the morning making copies of the USB drive files and hiding the original devices in a safety deposit box at the bank. If something happened to him, at least there would be evidence left behind. He also wrote a detailed letter explaining everything, sealing it in an envelope addressed to Tony with instructions to open it only if Marcus disappeared. As the 3 p.m. deadline approached, Marcus realized he was walking into a trap. But he also knew that running would only delay the inevitable. These people had already demonstrated their reach and willingness to threaten a child. The only way to truly protect Emma was to end this threat permanently, even if it meant putting himself at risk. The real question was whether he could outsmart professional criminals with resources and experience he couldn't match. Marcus looked at his sleeping daughter and knew he had to try. Her safety was worth any risk to his own life. Marcus arranged for Emma to spend the afternoon with Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor who often helped with babysitting. He told her he had an important appointment but would be back by dinner time. Mrs. Chen had been Sarah's friend and treated Emma like her own granddaughter, never asking too many questions when Marcus needed help. At 2:30 p.m., Marcus walked toward Millennium Park carrying the package, but he wasn't planning to simply hand it over. Hidden in his jacket was a small recording device he'd bought that morning, and he'd already sent copies of the USB files to a secure email account. If these criminals wanted their package, they were going to have to explain why they were threatening his family. The park was busy with tourists and office workers on their lunch breaks, which Marcus hoped would provide some protection. He found a bench near the Crown Fountain where he could see people approaching from multiple directions. His phone buzzed with a text. "Blue bench near the fountain. Sit and wait." They were watching him already. Marcus scanned the crowd but couldn't identify anyone suspicious. A businessman reading a newspaper, a young mother pushing a stroller, joggers in exercise clothes. Any of them could be working for the criminals. At exactly 3 p.m., a woman in her 40s approached the bench. She wore expensive clothing and sunglasses despite the cloudy day, walking with the confidence of someone used to being in control. She sat down beside Marcus without introducing herself. "You have something of mine," she said in a voice that suggested she wasn't used to asking twice for anything. "I have something that was delivered to me by mistake," Marcus corrected. "I want to return it and forget this ever happened." The woman smiled coldly. "I'm afraid it's not that simple anymore. You've seen things you weren't supposed to see." Marcus's recording device was capturing every word. "I haven't looked at anything. I just want my daughter left alone." "Your daughter is beautiful," the woman said, pulling out her phone to show a photo of Emma playing at daycare the previous week. 6 years old, attends Little Learners Daycare on State Street, loves those terrible fruit snacks and has a stuffed elephant named Peanuts. The level of detail made Marcus's blood run cold. They'd been watching Emma for days, maybe longer. "How long have you been following us?" "Long enough to know you're lying about not looking at the files. You copied them, didn't you? Sent them somewhere safe?" The woman's smile never wavered, but her eyes were like ice. Marcus realized there was no point in denying it. "Insurance. If anything happens to me or my daughter, those files go public." "Smart." but not smart enough. She gestured slightly with her hand, and Marcus noticed two men positioning themselves nearby, one by the fountain, another near the park entrance. You see, we have a different kind of insurance. Your daughter isn't at daycare today. We know, she's with the old Chinese woman in apartment 3C. Marcus started to stand, but the woman grabbed his arm with surprising strength. Sit down. She's safe for now, but that could change very quickly. What do you want? Marcus asked, fighting to keep his voice steady. Originally, just our property back. But now you've complicated things by copying our files. Those contain information about business arrangements that could hurt a lot of important people if they became public. Marcus understood now why they couldn't just let him walk away. The USB drive contained evidence of a criminal network that probably included politicians, judges, and business leaders. I don't care about your business. I just want to protect my family. Then you'll do exactly what we say. First, you'll tell us where you've hidden the copies of our files. Second, you'll help us with a small problem we're having. What kind of problem? The woman pulled out a photograph showing a man in his 50s leaving what appeared to be a courthouse. Judge Patricia Morrison has been asking too many questions about some of our associates. She needs to be convinced to stop. Marcus stared at the photo, realizing what she was asking. You want me to threaten a judge? We want you to deliver a package to Judge Morrison's home, just like the one that was delivered to you, except this time you'll make sure it reaches the right person. The plan was becoming clear. They wanted to use Marcus as a delivery person for their threats, probably because he had no criminal record and wouldn't be suspected. If he was caught, he'd be the one facing charges while the real criminal stayed hidden. And if I refuse? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Your daughter has a doctor's appointment tomorrow at 2 p.m., routine checkup. It would be terrible if she never made it to the clinic. Marcus felt helpless rage building in his chest. These people had studied his life in detail, learning about Emma's schedule and using that information to control him. How do I know you'll leave us alone after I help you? You don't. But you know what happens if you refuse? The woman stood up, smoothing down her expensive coat. You have 24 hours to decide. We'll be in touch with instructions. As she walked away, Marcus noticed the two men following at a distance. He was tempted to call out for help, but with Emma's life at stake, he couldn't risk it. He sat on the bench for another 10 minutes trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed with another text. Judge Morrison lives at 1247 Lakeshore Drive. Package will be delivered to your apartment tonight. Don't disappoint us. Marcus realized they were forcing him deeper into their criminal organization with each step. First, he'd received their package by mistake. Then he'd seen their files and become a witness. Now they wanted him to become an active participant in threatening a judge. Walking back to his apartment, Marcus knew he was running out of options. Going to the police might protect him, but it wouldn't necessarily protect Emma if these criminals had connections inside law enforcement. Running away was impossible without money and resources, but there was a third option he hadn't fully considered yet. Instead of being a victim of their plans, he could try to turn the situation around. The criminals needed him specifically because he appeared innocent and had no criminal record. That same innocence might be the key to bringing them down. Marcus thought about Judge Morrison and what kind of person stands up to organized criminals. Maybe she was someone who could help him fight back instead of someone he needed to threaten. The question was whether he could contact her without the criminals finding out, and whether she would believe the incredible story he had to tell. By the time Marcus reached his building, he had decided to take the biggest risk of his life. He was going to try to save both Emma and Judge Morrison, even if it meant putting himself directly in the line of fire. That evening, Marcus waited until Emma was asleep before researching Judge Patricia Morrison online. What he found gave him hope. She was known for her tough stance on organized crime and had recently presided over several high-profile cases involving corruption. Local newspapers described her as incorruptible and fearless in the face of intimidation. If anyone would understand his situation and have the resources to fight back, it was Judge Morrison. But contacting her directly was risky. The criminals were obviously monitoring his communications, and approaching a judge about an ongoing threat could be seen as tampering with the judicial system. At 11 p.m., another mysterious package arrived. This time Marcus was ready. He set up his phone to record the delivery through the peephole and watched as the same nervous driver from Saturday night placed a box outside his door. The man left, quickly without ringing the bell, but Marcus waited 10 minutes before retrieving the package. Inside was another electronic device, similar to the ones from the first package but smaller and more sophisticated. There was also a handwritten note with detailed instructions. Deliver to Judge Morrison tomorrow between 6 and 8 p.m. Ring doorbell, hand package directly to her and leave immediately. Do not speak to anyone else. Marcus realized this device was probably a listening device or tracker designed to monitor the judge's activities. By delivering it personally, he would be helping them gather intelligence on someone who was clearly a threat to their operations. But Marcus had developed his own plan. Instead of simply following their instructions, he would warn Judge Morrison about the threat while making it appear that he was cooperating with the criminals. It was dangerous, but it might be his only chance to get powerful help. The next morning, Marcus called in sick to work and took Emma to school as usual, trying to act normal despite knowing they were being watched. At the school, he had a quiet conversation with Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, about his concerns for his daughter's safety without revealing the full truth. If anyone you don't recognize tries to pick up Emma or asks questions about her, please call me immediately, Marcus said. I'm dealing with some personal issues that might affect her safety. Mrs. Rodriguez had known Emma since she started school and could see the genuine fear in Marcus's eyes. Of course, is there anything else we can do? Contact the police? Not yet, but maybe soon, Marcus said, hoping that would be true. That afternoon, Marcus spent hours preparing for what might be the most important conversation of his life. He made additional copies of all the evidence and hid them in multiple locations. He wrote detailed letters explaining the situation and left them with trusted people who wouldn't open them unless he disappeared. At 6:30 p.m., Marcus stood outside Judge Morrison's impressive home in one of Chicago's most prestigious neighborhoods. The house was surrounded by security cameras and had clear signs of professional protection. He rang the doorbell, holding the package and hoping his plan would work. A security guard answered the door, but Judge Morrison appeared behind him moments later. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything quickly. Marcus had researched her background and knew she had received threats before, so she would understand the seriousness of his situation. Judge Morrison, I need to speak with you about an urgent threat to your safety, Marcus said quickly before the security guard could dismiss him. The judge studied him for a moment, then noticed the package in his hands. What kind of threat? I was forced to bring you this package by people who want to harm you, but I'm here to warn you instead of just following their orders. Marcus spoke rapidly, knowing he might only have seconds before her security removed him. They know about your cases involving organized crime and they're planning to silence you. Judge Morrison's expression became very serious. Come inside quickly. Once inside her study with the security guard standing nearby, Marcus told his entire story. He explained about receiving the wrong package, the threats against Emma, and the evidence he'd found on the USB drive. He showed her the recording of his conversation with the woman in the park and handed over copies of the criminal files. Judge Morrison listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When Marcus finished, she sat quietly for several minutes, reviewing the evidence on her computer. This is extraordinary, she finally said. These files contain evidence of corruption that goes beyond anything we've suspected. Some of these faces belong to people in very high positions. Can you help protect my daughter? Marcus asked. That's all I care about. I can do better than that. I can help you bring down their entire operation. Judge Morrison picked up her secure phone and began making calls. But first, we need to make sure Emma is safe immediately. Within an hour, Judge Morrison had arranged for federal agents to place Emma in protective custody at a safe location. Marcus was allowed to see her briefly to explain that she would be staying with special babysitters for a few days, while Daddy handled some important business. Are the bad people trying to hurt us? Emma asked with the intuition children often have about danger. Some people made a mistake and got confused, Marcus said, holding her close. But the good people are going to fix everything. You'll be safe, and I'll see you very soon." Emma hugged him tightly. "Promise?" "I promise, sweetheart. Just remember that Daddy loves you more than anything in the world." After Emma was safely relocated, Judge Morrison explained her plan. The criminal organization had made a crucial mistake by trying to intimidate a federal judge. This gave law enforcement broad authority to investigate and prosecute everyone involved. "The evidence you've provided is enough to arrest several people immediately," she said. "But if we move too quickly, the leadership will disappear and reorganize somewhere else. We need to use you to draw them out." Marcus understood what she was asking. "You want me to pretend I'm still working for them?" "For a few more days, yes. We'll have agents watching you constantly, but there will be some risk. Are you willing to help us finish this?" Marcus thought about Emma's question about promises. He had promised her he would fix everything, and this might be his only chance to keep that promise. If he refused to help now, these criminals would eventually find another way to threaten his family. "What do I need to do?" Marcus asked. Judge Morrison smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. "You need to convince them that you successfully delivered their package and are ready for your next assignment. We're going to let them think they're winning while we build an airtight case against everyone involved." Marcus realized that his quiet life as a single father was over forever. But if helping the authorities meant Emma could grow up safely, it was a price he was willing to pay. The scared warehouse worker who had received the wrong package was about to become the key witness in bringing down a major criminal organization. The next morning, Marcus received a text congratulating him on successfully delivering the package to Judge Morrison. The criminals believed their plan was working, unaware that they had just handed federal agents the evidence needed to destroy their organization. "Good work. Meet us at Navy Pier tonight at 9 p.m. for your next assignment. Bring your work clothes," the message read. Agent Sarah Chen, who had been assigned as Marcus's handler, explained what this likely meant. "They're planning to use you for something that requires manual labor, probably moving money or equipment. This is perfect. It means they trust you enough to show you more of their operation." Marcus wore a wire and GPS tracker as he walked onto Navy Pier that evening. The popular tourist destination was still busy despite the late hour, with people enjoying restaurants and attractions along the waterfront. Agent Chen and her team were positioned throughout the area, disguised as tourists and vendors. The woman from the park appeared near the Ferris wheel, accompanied by two men Marcus hadn't seen before. One was tall and thin with expensive clothing, clearly someone important in their organization. The other was built like a bodyguard, constantly scanning the crowd for threats. "Marcus, meet Mr. Vincent," the woman said without using her own name. "He has a special job for you tonight." Vincent studied Marcus carefully before speaking. "I understand you're reliable and need money. We have work that pays well for people who can keep their mouths shut." "What kind of work?" Marcus asked, remembering Agent Chen's instructions to gather as much information as possible. "Simple delivery job. You'll drive a truck from a warehouse to a boat dock, load some boxes, unload them at the destination. One night's work, $5,000 cash." Marcus pretended to be impressed by the money while calculating what this meant. They were using Navy Pier as a meeting point because it provided cover for discussing illegal shipping operations. The boxes were probably drugs or weapons, and the boat was likely how they moved contraband out of the city. "When do we start?" Marcus asked. "Right now," Vincent said, leading them toward the parking area. "The truck is waiting, and the boat leaves at midnight. You'll have help loading and unloading, but you're responsible for the driving." As they walked, Marcus noticed Agent Chen following at a distance, pretending to take photos of the lake. The GPS tracker would let the federal agents follow the truck to its destination, gathering evidence about the entire shipping operation. The warehouse was located in an industrial area on the south side of Chicago, surrounded by similar buildings that provided perfect cover for illegal activities. Inside, Marcus saw more criminal evidence than he could process: stacks of cash, sophisticated communications equipment, and dozens of wooden crates marked with international shipping labels. "Don't look too closely at anything," Vincent warned. "Just load the truck and follow directions." But Marcus was memorizing everything he could while Agent Chen's team photographed the building from outside. The wire he wore was recording conversations between various criminals who assumed he was now part of their organization. Loading the truck took 2 hours. The boxes were heavy and required careful handling, suggesting they contained either drugs or weapons. Marcus overheard discussions about customers in Miami and the shipment from Colombia, confirming this was part of an international smuggling operation. At 11:30 p.m., Marcus drove the truck to a private marina where a large yacht was waiting. The boat flew a Mexican flag but was staffed by people who spoke English with local accents. As they loaded the boxes onto the yacht, Marcus realized he was witnessing a major transfer point for bringing drugs into the United States. "This is beautiful work," Vincent said, handing Marcus an envelope full of cash. "We could use someone reliable like you on a regular basis." Marcus accepted the money, while Agent Chen's team recorded the yacht's registration numbers and photographed everyone involved. "I'm interested. When do you need me again?" "Soon. We have a big shipment coming in next week that will require extra help. But first, we need to handle a small problem that's developed." Vincent showed Marcus a newspaper article about Judge Morrison announcing new initiatives to combat organized crime in Chicago. The judge was using the intelligence from Marcus's evidence to put pressure on criminal organizations throughout the city. "She's becoming a serious threat to our business," Vincent said. "The package you delivered should have solved this problem, but she's gotten more aggressive instead of backing down." Marcus realized that Judge Morrison was deliberately drawing attention to herself to make the criminals reveal more of their operation. She was using herself as bait, trusting that federal agents could protect her while gathering additional evidence. "What do you want me to do about it?" Marcus asked. "Nothing yet, but we may need your help with a permanent solution to the judge problem." Vincent's meaning was clear. They were considering murder. Marcus kept his expression neutral while feeling sick inside. These criminals were planning to kill Judge Morrison for doing her job, and they wanted him to participate. "I understand." "Good. Go home and wait for instructions, and remember, your daughter's safety depends on your continued cooperation." The threat against Emma was a reminder that Marcus was still walking a dangerous line between helping law enforcement and protecting his family. As he drove home, Agent Chen contacted him through a secure phone to debrief about the evening's events. "You did perfectly," she said. "We now have evidence of international drug smuggling, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. The yacht will be intercepted before it leaves American waters." "What about the threat against Judge Morrison?" Marcus asked. "She's in federal protection now, and we're ready to move against the entire organization. But we need one more piece of evidence to make sure we get everyone, including the leadership." Marcus understood what she meant. The criminals would try to contact him about harming Judge Morrison, and when they did, it would give federal agents everything needed to arrest everyone involved. "How much longer do I have to pretend to work for them?" Marcus asked. "Just a few more days. Then Emma can come home and you can both start over with new identities if necessary. The government will make sure you're both safe and financially secure as a reward for your cooperation." Marcus thought about Emma sleeping safely in federal protection and Judge Morrison risking her life to fight corruption. He had started this journey as an innocent victim of a shipping mistake, but now he was playing a crucial role in bringing down dangerous criminals. The scared single father who had received a wrong package was about to help deliver justice to people who threatened families like his own. 3 days later, Marcus received the call he'd been expecting and dreading. Vincent's voice was tense as he explained that Judge Morrison had become an immediate threat that required permanent resolution. "Meet us at the warehouse tonight, at 10 p.m. Bring dark clothing and be prepared for serious work," Vincent said. "This job pays $50,000, but there's no backing out once you're involved." Agent Chen and her team were ready. Federal agents had surrounded the warehouse, and Judge Morrison was safely hidden at a secure federal facility. Tonight would end the criminal organization's operations permanently. Marcus arrived at the warehouse wearing the wire and GPS tracker, knowing this would be his final performance as a fake criminal. Inside, he found Vincent, the woman from the park, and 4 other men he hadn't seen before. The atmosphere was tense, with everyone speaking in whispers and checking their phones constantly. Tonight we solve our judge problem once and for all, Vincent announced. Marcus, you'll drive the car. We'll handle the rest, but you'll be an accessory, which means you're committed to keeping quiet forever. Marcus nodded while Agent Chen's team recorded every word through his wire. I understand. What's the plan? The woman spread out a map of Judge Morrison's neighborhood showing escape routes and security camera locations. She leaves her house every morning at 7:30 a.m. to walk her dog. We'll be waiting in the parking garage of her apartment building. As they discussed the murder plot in detail, Marcus realized how close he and Emma had come to becoming victims of these same people. If he hadn't found the courage to contact Judge Morrison, they might have killed him to cover their tracks after, using him for a few jobs. Are you ready for this level of commitment? Vincent asked Marcus directly. Once we cross this line, there's no going back to your normal life. I'm ready, Marcus said, knowing federal agents would arrest everyone. In the room within minutes. At exactly 10:30 p.m., Agent Chen's signal activated. Federal agents burst through every entrance of the warehouse simultaneously, shouting commands and drawing weapons. The criminals realized they'd been caught in a trap, but it was too late to escape. Vincent tried to run toward a back exit, but found Agent Chen waiting with her gun drawn. Federal agents, you're under arrest. The woman who had threatened Emma tried to destroy evidence by smashing her phone, but agents had already recorded everything through Marcus's wire. Within minutes, all 6 criminals were handcuffed and read their rights. You have no idea what you've done, Vincent snarled at Marcus as agents led him away. There are people above us who won't forget this. Agent Chen stepped forward. Actually, we arrested your bosses 2 hours ago using evidence from the yacht intercept. Your entire organization is finished. Marcus felt a weight lifting from his shoulders as he watched the criminals being loaded into federal vehicles. For the first time in over a week, he knew Emma would be truly safe. The next morning, Marcus was reunited with his daughter at a federal facility. Emma ran into his arms, chattering excitedly about the special agents who had taken care of her and taught her card games. Daddy, the nice lady said you were helping catch bad people. Are you a superhero now? Emma asked with 6-year-old logic. Marcus hugged her tightly, remembering how this nightmare had started with a simple wrong delivery. No, sweetheart, I'm just your dad. But sometimes regular people have to be brave to protect the people they love. Judge Morrison visited them later that day to personally thank Marcus for his courage. Because of your cooperation, we've dismantled a criminal network that was responsible for drug trafficking, corruption, and multiple murders. The evidence you provided has led to 47 arrests across 3 states. She handed Marcus an official letter. This is from the Attorney General commending your service to your country. There's also a substantial reward from the federal government for your assistance. Marcus learned that the reward was enough to buy a house in a safer neighborhood and pay for Emma's college education. More importantly, the Federal Witness Protection program would provide them with new identities and ongoing security if needed. Do we have to leave Chicago? Marcus asked, thinking about Emma's school and the few friends they had. Not necessarily, Judge Morrison said. The leadership of this criminal organization is either dead or serving life sentences. The smaller players will be too focused on their own legal troubles to cause problems for you. 6 months later, Marcus and Emma had settled into their new life. Marcus used part of the reward money to buy a small house near Emma's school, and the federal government helped him find a better job with a security company that valued his unique experience. Emma adjusted quickly to their improved circumstances, though she sometimes asked questions about their adventure with the federal agents. Marcus told her age-appropriate versions of the story, emphasizing that sometimes good people have to be brave to stop bad people from hurting others. On the first anniversary of receiving the wrong package, Marcus received a letter from Judge Morrison. She had been promoted to the federal appeals court and continued her fight against organized crime. Her letter thanked him again and included a newspaper clipping about the final sentencing of Vincent and his associates. Your courage saved not only your own family, but countless others who would have become victims of this criminal organization, she wrote. Never doubt that one person can make a difference when they choose to do what's right. Marcus framed the letter and hung it in Emma's room next to her drawings and school awards. Sometimes she would ask him to read it to her, especially the part about making a difference. "Will I be brave like you when I grow up, Daddy?" Emma asked one evening as he tucked her into bed. "You're already brave, sweetheart," Marcus said, kissing her forehead. "You were brave when you stayed with the agents, and you're brave every day when you try new things and help your friends." Emma smiled and hugged her stuffed elephant peanuts. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Emma. Sweet dreams." As Marcus turned off her bedroom light, he reflected on how much their lives had changed because of a simple delivery mistake. What had started as the worst week of their lives had ultimately led to justice, financial security, and the knowledge that they had helped protect other families from dangerous criminals. The wrong package delivered at midnight had indeed turned a single father into a target of deadly secrets, but it had also transformed him into a hero who proved that ordinary people could accomplish extraordinary things when protecting the ones they love most.